What's up, guys? John O'Neill here from Crisis Sports Performance. Today I'm coming to you with an edition for part 3 of the blog series that I've had on teenage athlete periodization. So on the left here we have a force velocity curve with one curve for a beginner athlete, intermediate athlete, and an advanced athlete. On the right I have a breakout of what a week in training would look like for each of those 3 types of athletes. So we see the beginner athlete is going to be low in force, low in velocity, and that athlete's probably only training 3 days a week with us. And so if you look on the right, all 3 of those days are going to be high days. The plus represents a high, the minus represents a low. So that athlete really doesn't put up enough force or enough speed on anything to really earn a low day or a recovery day when they're in here. And like I said in part 2 of the blog post, we're going to train every aspect of this curve within every session, and everything's going to move up together. I think where things become more variable are when we've had that athlete for a little while, but they're not very advanced at either their sport or their level of training. So that's going to be more intermediate. And let's say we have that athlete 4 days a week. All those days are going to be relatively high days, but we might split that. So we might have one session that's more strength based, another that's more speed based. We might split it so it's a lower upper split. We aren't necessarily training every aspect of the curve within every session, but within every cycle of training, we're going to raise the curve together. So where things become a little more complicated, which is what I'm addressing in part 3 here, is the conjugated periodization for an advanced athlete. So if you look here, we assume we have that athlete 6 days a week, and we assume they're relatively high skill level. So we're going to have a Monday, Thursday high day where they're running sprints, they're doing lower body lifting, stuff that's going to be high force, high velocity, and we're going to have built-in low days. So most of our upper body baseball days are going to be relatively low. We're not going to have guys heavy benching. They're really not hitting 90% or above on any lift. And so if you look at it, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday are going to be low days. And then Saturday, depending on the athlete and the time of the off season, is going to be either a high or a low day. So if we look at this curve, we're going to follow from the highest force aspect to the highest velocity aspect throughout the course of the off season. So up here is going to be probably October, November. Down here is going to be January, February, right before they head off to spring training or to their college teams or their high school teams. All right, and like I said previously, the high-low model that we're going to use with our advanced athletes, we're not really going to use with our beginner athletes just because they haven't earned the right to come in here and have low-stress days because their outputs, both on the speed end and the force end, are not high enough to need to recover from. When we look at the advanced athletes, that might be someone who is, say, a high school kid who throws 95 miles an hour and has been training with us for 2 years, or it might be a pro guy who their training age isn't necessarily that high, but we have to take into account the timing of their off season and get them prepared as best we can to go back to spring training. Within the off season for that athlete, while we're focusing more here early on and more here later on, we're still going to have aspects that fit everywhere on the curve within each individual week. So if you look at, say, an October programming, the focus is probably more max strength, but we're still going to have a little bit of max speed just so that curve can move up altogether. If we look at, say, January or February, we're still going to have max force in here, but we're probably going to focus on a max velocity end because that's going to reflect the speed of sport that they're actually going to be playing at.